In this video, we're going to look at how to create a Jupyter Notebook instance within Amazon's SageMaker AI Studio so that if you have to run any Python code, you can run it within that Jupyter Notebook. And this is primarily focused for someone who is completely new or beginner on how to run Jupyter Notebook or what exactly even Jupyter Notebook means. Also, what is Amazon SageMaker or someone who's complete beginner. Now, later in this Jupyter Notebook, we're going to use to execute some additional labs or projects related to Python code to build any LLM-based applications, invoke LLM models, or do a lot of other processing for AI or machine learning or generative AI or agentic AI related code. And it'll be, as I said, useful if you're a complete beginner. Now, if this video is also taken from our training program, so there might be some references for that. So ignore that, and anything that you need in order to perform this lab exactly, if you're trying and if you hit any problem, leave below comment section. Even if you don't have any AWS account, there should be a video around how to create an AWS account if you even don't have that. But after completing this video, you should be able to create an instance. And then in future videos, we're going to cover it, how to actually run that code within that. So this will be complete beginner friendly. Also, if you're coming to first time this channel, my name is Atul. I've been helping individuals like you to learn AI, machine learning, agentic AI, or cloud for that reason on AWS, Azure, and other things as well. So with that, let's go straight on to the video. Hey there, this is Atul from team K20 Academy, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to create and then access that Jupyter Notebook instance in AWS Amazon SageMaker. I'll also talk about what is Jupyter Notebook if you're completely new or beginner, and if you already know, you can skip some of this part. But I'll begin with overview of Jupyter Notebook. How do you do? I'm going to cover the high level steps, including if you hit an error message, what you need to do. You can look at and post below the issue section. We'll also look at immediately after completing this lab, make sure either you stop that instance, Jupyter Notebook instance, or shut it down or delete it, your choice. But what I'm going to do is this Jupyter Notebook, we're going to use that in further subsequent labs within this program, which is AWS AI, machine learning, generative AI, agentic AI for beginners. And then later in our AI full job-oriented track within AWS Cloud, we look at a lot of other advanced hands-on lab and project. That's where we're going to cover this Jupyter Notebook. Now, with that, let's first begin with what exactly is Jupyter Notebook. It's nothing but an interactive, but a user-friendly way to run your code, deploy your code, do the data analysis, machine learning, and anything that you need to do on a programmatically using code visualization text. You can put it, and later part we're going to look at actually a Jupyter Notebook, play and show it to you. That's when you'll become much more clear. Now you can also do a collaboration with your team. You can share it as in the code repository, and a lot of those things we're going to cover in future. But just think of it as you're going to run some Python code to do some machine learning or generative AI, agentic AI. That's when you go to run some Python code. That's when you're going to use this as well. So in that, first of all, we need to have an AWS account. We've already created a prerequisite lab where you know how to create an AWS account. That's important. Now, once you have created account, next is to log into this account. So I've already logged into this account. This is where my AWS Cloud account is. I've logged into this here reference. Now, next we are going to do is we are going to go and open a tool or service called SageMaker. And now within, if you search for SageMaker, there are two SageMakers, AWS SageMaker and AWS SageMaker AI. We are going to use AWS SageMaker AI. This is AWS SageMaker is more for data analytics and AI, but SageMaker AI is the one for to build, train, and deploy machine learning model, and that's what we are going to do. So we're going to use this AWS SageMaker AI tool. I'm going to give you a brief overview about this SageMaker, but later part we're going to go more advanced SageMaker related, or this is a machine learning creation of model, deployment, testing, everything for machine learning model. We're going to use SageMaker. There's another service called Bedrock. We're not covering that. We'll cover probably, you might have already seen that. We're going to cover in advanced topic in that. Now, this is basically on you can set up this for single user, multi-user organization. Again, we are going to cover that separately as well. But this is on left hand side when you come and see, this is what we are doing. We are looking at application and IDEs. And this is where you see Studio, Canvas, RStudio, TensorBoard, Profile, Notebooks, Partner AI apps. In this particular case, we are using Notebook. This is what it's giving us, Jupyter Notebook. And I'm going to go and create my notebook here. So this is where you go and on this console here, you can go, let me minimize this. This is where you can go and create a simple notebook instance. Now, parallelly, you follow this document. I'm going to cover some more additional things as we are covering, but anything that gets updated, AWS screens keeps updating. So anything that gets updated, we're going to update in this guide here as well. Now, behind the scene, when we say Jupyter Notebook, it's doing nothing but running behind the scene a EC2 instance of a particular shape, of which is a memory and CPU underlying storage associated to that. You don't see that, but behind the scene, that's what's happening. That's what we'll create. That's when you're going to see that. So now we're going to give some name of this notebook. So I'll probably put a name of, for example, K20 Academy Jupyter notebook, or whatever notebook you want to see, whatever unique name that you can remember in future. I'm going to put my name as well, just because my team also uses this. I'm going to save that name. Now this is where instance type. This is where I'm talking about is the based on this. If you've done the EC2, which is a virtual machines on AWS, you're probably already familiar with these. But these are shape and size of which will dictate how much CPU, how much memory, and how much storage behind the scene AWS is going to allocate for this. And ML stands for this for machine learning shape, and we are picking up machine learning T2 medium. Now that will dictate driven by what kind of a code you're running on that, what kind of a Python code that you have. Again, for now, for testing purpose, machine learning T2 medium is more than enough for most of the labs that we are going to do. Now, if you do uh, so I think this is more than enough. So we're going to pick this one later. In fact, if you want something else, you can always pick it from here. Now this is where the actual underlying on that it needs an operating system on that machine, and that's what it's saying. Amazon Linux 2 will leave it to default. If in future, if you're performing this lab and you see a different platform identifier, you can feel free to change. It won't impact much. Now we are not going to go on anything more here, but again, some of these things are explanatory. Volume, which is the underlying storage that is being associated. Now this is where the important point is. It need an identity and access management role. Now mistake you might do is if you select an existing role which may or may not be, role might have been created in different zone or availability zone, which is nothing but this one, which is I'm doing it in Oregon, and if it's created a role in some other place, or is assigned to some other thing, or have a different token, other things, it might create problems. For the demo purpose, we're going to create a new role. So I'm going to create a new role here, and it will pop up a new thing, and parallelly follow this documentation as well as you're performing. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a role and assign so that it can go and work with other associated services like S3 or whatever this notebook needs to do. We can do it from here. Now here I'm going to select a name, so you can pick any name of your choice. Here I'm again picking K20 Academy SageMaker role. Any name which you probably ideally in real world you're going to have when you're creating these things. If it's a production environment, you will be defining, you have all the roles, policies, everything. In test dev, in your development environment, you can create anything of your choice because it's for you only. So SageMaker underscore role, and I've already created some previous role, so I'm going to pick it name 2. I'm going to do a different some description. So whatever description you want to put a description, meaningful description that you can remember. Now this is important, a select a persona. Now this is kind of a who's actually going to do the task, whatever task you need on this notebook, who is actually going to do data scientist, and behind the scene, these roles or personas have predefined access permissions that you probably need. So for example, this data scientist is permitted to process S3 data, perform experiment, produce model, etc. And this guy can also do pipeline and so on. And like that, I'm not going to go in detail about these roles. In future videos, we're going to cover in depth about these permissions, roles, etc. So we're going to pick MLOps that will do pretty much most of the jobs that we want to do, because later we are going to do machine learning operations as well, MLOps, so we probably can reuse this. Now, again, it can do network connections, connectivity, encryptions. We're not going to change any of that. We're going to leave it blank and click on next on part here. Once it's done, now from here, it says that this machine learning, MLOps role that we selected, it can do it can run machine learning studio application, manage model, manage pipelines, and all the other things as well. If you want to add some additional permissions, you can go and grant the permissions here. You can also do some other manage model, manage pipeline. I'm not going to touch that right now. So if you see now, I'm just following the documentation. We click on link and then click on next part here. Now this is where if you go and see, it basically says some additional identity access management policies. So we're going to look at identity access management policies, what we are selecting here. Now this is where I'm going to pick two more permissions, which is SageMaker full access and administrator access. The reason being is right now I don't need full access or administrator access for now, but later we are going to do some additional labs. So I want to make sure that that required access is granted. Again, as I said, this is for dev environment. In actual production, will be limiting to these access as well. So I'm going to search here on SageMaker and SageMaker full access. This is one you're selecting, and then go to select one more thing, which is administrator access. That's pretty much granting full access, administrator access onto that. So we're going to select two more policies, and we click on next here. And then once it's done, you probably might, let me move myself here, that probably will say, and now we are going to review the role. So this is the name. We'll make a note of this, which is role 2, SageMaker, Keynote Academy SageMaker role 2, and then see, and then click submit here. Just double check on verify on this, should be all fine. And we submitted created a role. Now once this role is created, it should again be visible here. So you might have to refresh this page here so that for this role to come up here. So I'm going to refresh this page on. So what I'm going to do is maybe let's see if it works. Otherwise, I'll go back onto the notebook instance and I'll come back to this point again here. Default, it's not coming here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the notebook instances again and probably create an instance again. And now, ideally, there should be a refresh button, there. So I'm going to go to repeat these things settings again here. I'll say uh, Jupyter Notebook. So I'm going to pause this and I'm not going to, don't want to repeat this, which is we selected here, sorry, T2 medium. We've already picked up these things. Oh, this is where now we have the role 2. This is the role which I was talking about, enable. And then network, we don't want to change anything, leave it blank, and then create a notebook instance. And now behind the scene, it'll go and create instance. If there's any problems or errors, it'll report here. And this is where once it's selected from action item, these things will be visible. It'll give it probably 4 or 5 minutes and it should come. I'll go to pause this video. I'll come back again here. So now I think it took me around 6 minutes or so. It could be slightly more, slightly less, depending on what kind of a shape you have available, which reason it could be. It's totally entirely down to AWS, but I think probably good 5 to 10 minutes should be fine. It should be in service. Now this is where you can open the Jupyter Lab or open Jupyter. What the Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab is, we'll cover that. But I'm going to open Jupyter Lab. This is we're going to cover that these things, what these are in the subsequent lessons. But this is just now you successfully created the Jupyter Notebook. Now, if you want to stop, which you must, first and important thing is that you're going to select this Jupyter Notebook, and this is where you're going to stop. And then once stop, then you can delete it. Now, very, very important, because behind the scene, it's running a virtual machine of MT2 medium, that particular shape of Linux instance operating system on top of that, on which you go to run and execute command as well. So it's very, very important that you shut down. So you can follow the steps given here, which are to stop. And if you're going to use this, which we are going to leverage, if you see now within this AWS AML for beginners, this is for beginners program. In that, we're going to cover all additional labs. And then later part, we're going to do a lot of those machine learning operations and a lot of other labs as well. We are going to do in this particular full AI track, including certifications for AI certification, machine learning associate certification, or generative AI certifications. That's where I'm going to run this Jupyter notebooks. That's when we're going to need it. But if you're good planning to use it in the next 1 or 2 days, then stop it and then start it when you're ready. I'm going to show you both how to stop and start. But then if once you're done, and if you know you're not going to use it for next 2 3 days, delete it and then always create it new when you need to. It's very, very simple and easy. Now, make sure that once you've done it, make sure that you updated your progress diary. Very, very important. If you've not updated if you've not started your progress diary, the difference between we were 90 close to now earlier 91%, now 93% success rate. So what we have noticed is a transition on the guys who are successful and the guys probably around 8 or 9% who are not successful. Our difference is that they don't update or they don't work on their progress diary. They don't have very clear indications and so on. So make sure you update the progress diary that you've completed this lab, and then also tell me that you have stopped or deleted this instance. Very, very important. You can refer more on this documentation if you want to go deeper into what that SageMaker is or how to create an instance. But if you hit any problems, you can go and publish this error. I've already got some errors which I've documented here including fix. So you can put it on here. So with that, let's go and look at onto share and stop. How do you stop it? So we're going to select. But before that, if it comes, it's going to be refreshing. So this is where we're going to run files and all those things. We're going to import file. What this Jupyter notebook is, there's a training on about where how to run all those codes and what does each of these settings mean. We're going to cover it separately. This is a so this is where Jupyter Lab, which will have other instances like in terms of you can run it in Python, R, or PySpark, and so on. And this is a simple notebook within that. So I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to stop it first, and then I'm going to delete it. So this is now stopping, and then once you refresh it here, and then you can once it's stopped, then you go and delete it. So if you notice now it's stopped, and then I can go and delete this instance, and it'll go and delete. Make sure just double check and refresh it here. So it's deleting, and after that it'll delete. That was on how to create a Jupyter notebook on Amazon SageMaker AI. And the main purpose of creating that was that I wanted to actually show to you how to invoke a foundation model, or even what exactly foundation model mean, and how to invoke it for text generation. You can use the same concept for image generation or video generation or code generation, other part, using programmatically using an API. So what that actually foundation model mean, how to generate, how to use API, which API to use, and other things, which we're going to cover in the next video. So don't forget to subscribe this video. And if you really want that video to be quickly, just leave a comment saying that the next video, I can create the next video and publish it here. With that, do let me know if you need any other such videos like that. This is Atul from Team Kitten Academy. I look forward to see you in the next video. Take care and bye for now.